the blade came down before anyone saw him move. Not rage, not a war cry, no declaration. Just iron meeting the ancient dark, and a god who had already decided the world would open whether it wanted to or not. Before the first road existed, before the first tool was ever shaped, before any human hand had ever pressed seed into soil or stacked stone upon stone, there was a forest. And that forest stood between heaven and earth like a locked door. Dense, ancient, absolute. The other gods had already tried. Obatala, the god of white cloth and creation, stood at the threshold, pressed his hand against the darkness, and felt it push back. He said, "This is not a place for the divine," and he turned away. Orunmila, god of wisdom and the keeper of destiny, took 3 steps into the undergrowth, thorns drawing blood from his hands, and retreated. He said, "There is no wisdom in forcing what will not open," and he too stepped back. One by one, the most powerful beings in the Yoruba cosmos stood before that forest, and decided the earth was not worth the cost of reaching it. Ogun did not deliberate. He did not press his hand against the wall and feel for weakness. He did not consult wisdom or look for omens. He picked up his machete and walked straight in. His name is Ogun, god of iron, god of war, god of every road ever cut through the wild and every blade ever forged from the earth. And this is what it cost him. In the beginning, before kingdoms, before roads, before any of it, the world Olodumare had shaped and handed to his Orishas like a promise, was unreachable. Between heaven and earth sat a forest that had existed since before memory. Not the kind of forest you can walk around, the kind that wraps the entire world, roots older than language, thorns as thick as bone, and a darkness so dense and complete, it had weight. You could feel it pressing back against you. When Ogun stepped into that forest, he carried exactly one thing, a machete he had forged himself from ore pulled directly from the belly of the earth, the first blade ever made in all of existence. And from the moment he entered, the other gods waiting outside heard it, the steady rhythmic sound of iron meeting the ancient world. He did not rush. He did not hack wildly. Every swing was deliberate. Every step was considered. He was not destroying the forest. He was converting it, turning resistance into passage, turning the impossible into a road. He bled. The thorns cut him. The roots tripped him. The darkness disoriented him. He healed, and bled again, and kept moving. For 7 days and 7 nights, nothing but the sound of iron, and the slow, certain progress of a god who had decided that if the world would not open willingly, he would open it himself. Ogun stepped out the other side. Behind him, a path, clear, wide, open, lit with morning light for the first time in the history of the world. The other Orishas descended immediately. They walked the path Ogun had bled to clear, spread across the earth, took their domains. Humanity became possible. The first farms, the first rivers given names, the first prayers spoken into the open sky, all of it was possible because of a road that did not exist 9 days earlier. And Ogun stood at the mouth of that path and watched them all walk past him without a single word. Not because they were ungrateful, but because what Ogun had revealed about himself in those 7 days, that relentless, cold, efficient capacity for destruction, made the other gods quietly uncomfortable. He had done what none of them could. He had dismantled the ancient world with his bare hands and his blade. And in doing so, he had made visible something they would rather not acknowledge. He was built for destruction, and he was frighteningly, undeniably good at it. Among humans, though, Ogun was beloved. Where other Orishas required precise ceremony, specific incantations, the exact number of offerings, laid out in exactly the right order, Ogun asked for only one thing: honesty. A blacksmith's real sweat as he hammered iron in the heat, a warrior's genuine silence before battle, not performance, not theater, but the real reckoning a man has with himself when he knows the next few hours might kill him. A hunter pausing at the forest edge before stepping in and saying out loud, not for show but for truth, "I see you, I am entering your domain, I ask only for what I need and nothing more." That was the offering Ogun honored. Not perfection, truth. He taught men to shape iron into tools. He showed the first blacksmiths how to read ore, how to listen to fire, how to shape metal into forms that made the difference between a family that survived the dry season and one that did not. Every forge that ever burned in the Yoruba world was lit under his protection. And when the wars came, and in the ancient world they always came, kings and generals called his name, and Ogun answered. He won every battle he was called into, every single one. And for a long time, Ogun held onto a distinction. He was not killing for pleasure. He had a code. He fought for those who called on him justly, and he stopped when the fight was over. That distinction between what he was and something truly monstrous was the line he drew inside himself, the line he held onto. Then came the town of Ire. The people of Ire had called Ogun into a war, and he had delivered them a complete victory. By evening the enemy was shattered. The battlefield was theirs. The war was over. Ogun had won. But the war fury, the thing that made him unstoppable, the thing that shut down hesitation and fear and second thoughts, had not yet heard that the fighting was done. His pulse still hammered like a war drum that had forgotten it was allowed to slow down. The smoke was still thick. The light was dying, and in his blood and his bones the battle was still happening. He turned. The people of Ire were running toward him, faces open with joy and relief, palm wine sloshing from gourds, singing his name, Ogun, Ogun, arms wide, ready to celebrate the God who had saved them. In the blood and smoke and failing light, they looked like the enemy. By the time Ogun's vision cleared, by the time the war fury finally heard that the battle was over, the ground around him was red with the blood of those he had come to protect. He did not roar. He did not weep. He went completely still. In that stillness, the god of iron and war going utterly, absolutely quiet, was more terrifying than any display of rage could ever have been. The line he had always told himself existed between him and something monstrous was not a line at all. It had never been. If this story is doing something to you right now, drop a comment below. And if you are new here, subscribe. This series only gets deeper from here. Now, back to Ogun. He walked into the forest, not running, not hiding, choosing, with full awareness of what he was doing and what he was leaving behind. Ogun, the god who had cleared the first path in existence, who had made every road in the world possible, turned his back on all of it and disappeared into the deep. Because he understood something now that he could not unknow. Out there, among kingdoms, among warriors and kings with wars that needed winning, he was always one moment of lost clarity away from another ire. One moment where the war fury could not tell the difference between the enemy and the people he was meant to protect. And there was no guarantee that the next time would be the last time. The forest asked nothing of him. No wars to win, no battles to end, no kings chanting his name in the dark. Just the trees and the soil, and the iron ore humming beneath his feet, like a quiet conversation that had been waiting for him to show up and listen. He stayed. The Orishas did not come for him. Humans searched for a while, and then stopped. Seasons turned. The world kept moving without him. And Ogun moved through the deep forest, like something that had always belonged there. Hunting in silence, forging alone by firelight, existing without an audience, for the first time in his entire existence. Some accounts say he began speaking to the iron and the earth during those long years, that he could hear it the way other gods hear prayer, a low, constant resonance beneath the soil, older than any language spoken above ground. That Ogun and the iron, in all that silence, finally reached the understanding they had never had time for when the world was always calling his name. But here is the truth the forest kept for him. A god of war is not at peace when the war is over. He is simply waiting. And Ogun, stripped of every distraction the world had ever given him, finally had to sit with the one enemy he had spent all of eternity avoiding, himself. There was not a divine messenger that brought him back. No thunderclap summoned him. No prophecy declared his return necessary. It was hunters. From Ire, the same town, the same people whose blood was still in some way he would never be able to fully reckon with, on his hands. They found him deep in the forest, weeks of travel from any settlement. And they came with nothing that could be mistaken for a threat. No weapons, no accusations, no demands for explanation or punishment. They came with palm wine and silence. They sat at the edge of his solitude, and they waited, not performing patience, actually waiting, willing to sit there for as long as it took. And eventually, when the silence had been long enough to mean something, one of the hunters spoke. He said, "The road that connects our town to the next, Ogun cleared that path. The iron in every blade our hunters carry, Ogun taught us how to shape it. Half of us are alive right now because of battles you won for us before Ire ever happened. We are not here to tell you that what happened was nothing. We are here because the world still needs iron. The forge is cold, the warriors have no patron, and you are the only one who truly understands what iron is for." Ogun was quiet for a long time. Then he reached out and took the palm wine. He drank, he stood, and without a single word, he walked out of the forest. Not healed, not absolved, not at peace with what he had done. The Yoruba do not tell it that way, and the omission is intentional. Ogun did not return transformed. He returned present, carrying everything he had done, and choosing in spite of it, to keep being what the world needed him to be. Every road that has ever been walked, every bridge ever crossed, every surgical blade that has saved a life, every farming tool that has turned dry ground into food, every weapon ever lifted to protect something worth protecting, they all begin with iron, and iron belongs to Ogun. Drivers in Nigeria speak his name before long journeys. Surgeons, whether they know it or not, enter his domain the moment they pick up a scalpel. Every person who has ever carried something brutal, kept moving when stopping felt like the only reasonable option, and shown up anyway, has felt him, briefly, in the steadiness of their hands. He is not honored for being gentle. He is honored for being necessary. And somewhere, at the edge of every deep forest, he is still there, still moving, still carrying ire, still cutting the path, so that others can walk through. The God who cannot afford to stop, because if he stops, he remembers. If Ogun's story moved you, drop a comment and tell us what stayed with you. What part hit hardest? Episode 3 is coming, and it follows Oya, the woman who shapeshifted for Sango, who stole his secrets and became more powerful than the god she loved, goddess of storms, change, and the threshold between the living and the dead. The most dangerous Orisha in the entire pantheon. Subscribe right now so you are there when it drops. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear where iron comes from. And we will see you in the next one. Oba Koso.